Oh, hey, you're up. Oh, hey, you're up.
Hit that flying pajama or what?
Oh, hey, you're up.
You're
Oh,
gonna
hey,
die.
you're up.
Again
Hit that flying pajama or
again.
what?
Oh, hey,
and
you're
again.
up. Oh, hey, you're up.
Hit that flying pajama or what?
Oh, hey, you're up. Oh, hey, you're up.
Who's Bill Murray?
Oh, hey, you're up. I'm not sure if you remember my name or not. You were pretty wasted last night. I'm Bubbawheat, and you're listening to my podcast, It's Time to Rewind, where we're in the death days of autumn, covering the Happy Death Day movies one loop at a time. Today, we're discussing the third loop in the first Happy Death Day movie that starts at 29 minutes and 37 seconds with Tree waking up in a panic after having been stabbed, and ends at 37 minutes and 49 seconds with a bloody knife sticking through a door, and Tree on the other side. And joining me today is Ronnie from the Wasted Potential podcast. How are you doing today?
Happy Death Day to you, Bubba. Thanks for having me. I'm doing excellent. Not waking up hungover today, so ready to podcast, drinking coffee, staying hydrated.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's no, it this I've already said this season has been a lot of fun so far, and we're only on the third loop, so I'm kind of this is like the first slightly shorter loop at only 8 minutes, but I'm excited to get into this one. But before we jump in, when did you first discover these movies?
I was really trying to remember. Last night I was watching the sequel just for some context, and my wife was kind of half asleep, and she wakes up in the middle of it and goes, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Happy Death Day 2." And she goes, "Have we seen these?" I'm like, "We did, like at some point, ironically, like a time loop, but I think we saw them like 2021. Like I think they were streaming on something. So we watched
Mm,
them. So I didn't see this in the theater or anything. So I kind of came to this one a little bit later. Like I heard it was entertaining, but and this is not an insult, but like movies that are kind of derivative of other movies, obviously Groundhog Day and other things. Sometimes you're like, I'm not in the mood for that. But saw it. I liked the first one, and then it was really enjoyable. And then the second one, not as keen on. It's really
mm.
goofy, but I kind of like the goofiness of it. But yeah, so a couple years ago saw it, and then just happy to rewatch it and notice some fun things about this loop in particular.
Yeah, and so let's go ahead and start in with it. This I like how in the first kind of a couple uh, repetitions we get an escalation of Tree's reaction to waking up because the last time she had she was like breathing a little heavy, but she was still I think she like startled awake, but then the rest of it was pretty normal, and then this time she's in like full on panic mode.
Yeah, the previous scene, like she wakes up and thinks, "Well, that was a weird kind of like nightmare kind of dream," and then everything gets like the tone of the movie gets a little bit sillier, and then after like her second death, she wakes up and then she goes, "Okay, now I know like something is definitely really wrong." So she wakes up in a panic and very much more dismissive of Carter and just like starts panicking and realizing like something is terribly, terribly wrong here. She's
Mm.
realizing that she's in a time loop movie, and she can't get
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, she says, "My God, this is a nightmare," and I like that Carter finally kind of gets a little bit of backbone here because he typically just gets walked all over by Tree in the previous loops, and he's very much like the stereotypical like nice guy, which I do appreciate. I do like him as a character, but I do like that this time that he does, finally snap back at Tree a little bit, where he says, "I'm sorry, but you wanted to come home with me."
hmm It's always fun, like the time loop banner in these kind of movies, because obviously one person's in on the know and the other person obviously isn't, and they're kind of like reacting to like her dismissive, rude behavior. And like you said, he's really kind. It seems like he's obviously like an underclassman, and she's like a little bit older because he's still in like the dorm room, and she's in like a sorority. There's obviously like maybe like the age level or grade, like a year level kind of gap
Mhm.
there, but also like the societal, like obviously playing with like societal things, like she's upper, like higher class because she's sorority, she's got higher standards, quote unquote, and he's in a dorm room with they live posters in the background. He's like a
Mhm.
goofy kind of uh, college freshman, and she's more hoity-toity and kind of dismissive of, oh, gross. Why did I go home with this guy? But
Yeah, and she kinda speeds through this, and she does like you said, this is the point where she kinda knows that she's in a time loop. She's like, "Your name's Carter, and you've never met me before, or you don't and we've never met before."
Yeah, and I always love in time loop movies to like analyze these things of like how do they prevent it from getting stale? Because like cause it's all about, because you can think in your head like you can just keep refilming things, but obviously they have to refilm a very similar like take every single time. And in this one, well, like I already mentioned, like she realizes it, he doesn't, but he's still being that kind of happy-go-lucky. Oh, here, can I find you some Tylenol? And like he's trying to comfort her because obviously she had a really long night the night before there, and then
Mhm.
it kind of leaves the dorm room scene. She's like panicking. She screams at the roommate, and then when she goes out into like the quad, they're starting to add the shaky cam a little bit to try to
Mhm.
prevent the filming, the framing and stuff from being a little bit stale.
Yeah, I like this, I've been calling it the time loop marker walk of shame. Because because it's set up as, the typical walk of shame where, the drunk college girl, uh, slept in some random guy's bed the night before, and then now she's doing the makeup smeared walk back to her place. And yeah, you mentioned the shaky cam, and it's really pronounced in this because, this is her. She's still in a panic. She's much less composed as she was the first 2 times, and the camera is, like it's not even just, like, handheld, but they're intentionally, like, shaking it a lot more than they normally would to intensify, just the unsteadiness of Tree's character during this walk.
Yeah, and then like the musical like stings, it makes it not like horror, but more because it's like I know it is a horror movie, but like she's more jumpy and she's panicking, and it's just obviously telling us the audience like she's definitely frazzled and she's realizing that things are amiss here. And I
Mm,
always love I just love how like it changes like throughout the movie. It just changes tones. Like it starts off with like the first couple like time loops. She's angry, frustrated, she's hungover, and then this time she's panicking from like the car alarm, the sprinklers, and it's all just that realization to her and the audience that this is not normal. It's not a normal hangover.
yeah,
And
and this time we do skip a couple time loop markers at the end where, she finishes with, she brushes off Tim, and
mhm.
then, we skip the girl with the headphones in front of the sorority house and the entire meeting with Danielle, and instead we go straight to her room and her roommate, Lori.
Yeah, and we get to like I know like time loop movies are like your jam, your thing, and I've seen quite a few that I like. But I was just thinking like I like movies where you can put yourself into someone's shoes and think, how would I get out of this? Like my wife and I like to watch like people are stranded in the wilderness or somewhere trapped, and I always think like, okay, well, put yourself in their shoes. How would you get out of this? And I like this scene. It's the how would you convince people around you that you're stuck in a time loop, which is like the craziest like most insane thing to ever tell someone and say it with a straight face, and they don't immediately call
Mhm.
campus security and say, hey, my friend's like on a bad drug trip here. So I always like the how do you rationalize and convince your friend that you're not you didn't take acid and you're like coming down.
Yeah, and especially, we get it's, like, right near the end, but, apparently Tree has never seen Groundhog Day, which, I think it's a great line, and it's stuck in my head because the another kind of time loop um, podcaster, Robert E.G. Black. That's he's kind of the Groundhog Day expert, and he's doing his own Groundhog Day podcast, where he's covering that 1 minute at a time. And for his opening music, he has a bunch of clips from a ton of different time loop movies. And the one from this one is Carter saying, "What, you mean you haven't seen Groundhog Day?" And
Yeah.
so I hear that listening to him, and that makes things a lot more difficult because especially if it's something set in the real world, in the modern world, the the kind of go-to explanation for someone is I'm in Groundhog Day.
Yeah, and sometimes I think in this movie it works because there's only like that one like reference to Groundhog Day. It just like Carter throws it in there for like a little like nod. It's funny because this movie's a horror comedy, so it works. But the
Mhm.
sequel, there's a lot more of those references, and it gets like okay, it's a little more grating to me. But yeah, it's fun because Carter is like he's got movie posters in his dorm room, so he's like um I don't know. He's like the more self-aware kind of character, I guess. Like this movie reminds me of Scream a lot.
Mhm.
Like it's very a lot of like the like Scream, and then just I coincidentally my wife and I watched The Faculty last week. I've never seen it before. I think 1998, kind of like
Mhm.
a horror comedy movie. And I was watching that. I was like this feels like Scream, and then it turns out written by Kevin Williamson. I'm like, oh, that's why it feels like Scream. It's the writer of Scream, so that like makes sense. So this is like it's a this movie really I think in the second half really types into like the horror comedy of it all, and it gets ridiculous, and it's really fun and kind of plays into that little bit of the self-aware humor of that.
Yeah, and in this one, this is kinda her first time trying to tell someone that she's stuck in a time loop. I mean, she did attempt to a little bit in the last loop. The first person that she went to was Graham, but he kinda took it the wrong way and thought that she was telling him that she was in love with him, and then she's like, "No, I'm not in love with you," and then he's like, "Oh, that's a turn on." And in this one, the second person that she goes to is her roommate, and I've been saying it in the previous 2 episodes, but Ruby Modine as Lori does a really great job at this dual layered performance. Because whenever you're watching it the first time around, you feel like she actually does care about Tree, and she's just being in a good um, roommate that's like trying to connect with her and show Tree the error of her ways, and being this party girl. But the second time around, and especially dissecting it like I am here, you really see like this look of annoyance and hatred in her eyes as she's talking with Tree. And I think especially like my favorite moment is whenever Tree says someone's trying to kill me tonight, and Lori like has a twitch and then it turns into a laugh. And again, like knowing that Lori is the real killer, that is just such a great moment whenever you see it the second time around.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because this movie has a really low opinion of sorority girls. There's obviously the exceptions of the girl like wearing the headphones outside. She just smiles at Tree. Then there's the one um sorority girl who gets fat shamed or like food shamed
Becky.
by by Danielle. But they really don't like this movie really looks down on sorority girls. Like Trees obviously has her issues, justified or not justified. Danielle's definitely um a stereotype, and then Laurie's because you think at first like Laurie seems like the exception to the rule. And you're like, nope, they're all really fake. The veil, like she's wearing the veil, like the mask is there, like the literal and the figurative mask is there. So yeah, it's great. And then the scene really sets up the reveals later, like the cupcake, the party, and then it introduces and says the name Lori because later she mentions where did Lori put the remote. So it sets up a lot of
Mhm.
our are twists and turns later there. But then like she's trying to explain to her like, you're gonna give me this cupcake, the surprise party's here, and then Laurie's kind of looking at her strange, but then she starts screaming at Laurie and acting insane. I'm like, oh well, now she's not gonna believe you. Like she's first trying to calmly walk her through this, and then like you said, Laurie twitches and kind of looks at her like, huh, and then she starts almost like yelling at her and like, oh well, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, and I especially dissecting the movie, like I have been here, this movie is really well built. I think, like you said, it has these little setups that pay off. Some of them pay off, very quickly. Others pay off a little bit later. Like, this, Lori convinces her to stay in her room, and then we get Tree boarding up the windows, and then she sets the hammer down, and so that's kind of a setup for, later on in this loop, to give her the weapon, and then as she moves the dresser over to block the front door, and we get the kind of the second, bit of her and her mother, and I don't know if you remember, like, watching this the first time, like, did you eh, I like, what did you think was going on with her mother? Because they haven't explained it fully yet at this point in the movie. Like, I believe I think at this point you can know that her mother is dead at this point, but you don't know, like, the full details about how they have the same birthday and everything.
Yeah, I liked how they slowly kind of delve out the emotional kind of core of this because I because Tree is unlikable
Mhm.
for the first, I don't know, third of this movie. She's very abrasive and dismissive. I'm sure you talked about this in the other loops of like Tim and Carter. She's just mean, and obviously with the mother connection, there's a reason for it. Doesn't justify, but she's really rude. So then they slowly in this scene, it really like we have a moment for her to just be alone finally, and we kind of see who she really is. She's not putting on, airs and pretending, putting on her mask for the sorority sisters or for everyone else. So we get that nice moment where, you know, we figure out, well, obviously something's happened to her mom. We know her dad's been calling her mom's not been calling her, so something's happened there. So
Yeah,
like
we also
it's
know
nice.
that she blew off the dinner date or, like a lunch or a dinner date with her dad because she listens to his voicemail in the first 2 loops where he says, "I waited at the restaurant for hours."
Yeah, and like, without the context, she seems, well, that's really rude of her, but there's a reason for that. So this is like, so like this the scene's nice when she's like locked in her room because you're like, okay, well, there's more emotional depth to this character, and I think that's what kind of surprises me about towards the end of this movie is they actually try to give her an arc, and it's it feels like it's a good payoff and set up and payoff because this movie gets to have its like cake and eat it too. Like you have your rude girl who's also the final girl, and we get to watch her get killed over and over again. But then that's what kind of makes her have the arc. So it's a really fun way of using that time
Mhm,
loop and a horror connection. But in this scene, it reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street. Like it's
mhm.
obviously reminiscent of Nancy locking herself and putting in traps in her room and then pulling out the big old like coffee pot where she's just constantly brewing herself coffee. Tree's trying to protect herself. It just reminds me of that's a good homage to classic 80s like slashers there. And then another another reference there I got is like when eventually when the killer gets in there, I remember how she I think she hits him or hits the killer and it falls over, and then she does Babyface does like a Michael Myers homage and kind of sits up, does the whole thing. So it's a lot of fun little references to 80s and 70s slashers in this scene.
Mhm. And then, still, like, right in the middle, like, during the whole setup of, as she's barricading her room, we get another, nice little building block in this time loop movie where she happens to look at her phone, and so we get a nice close-up of what time it is. It's 9:23 when the power goes out, during the brownout moment, which that's another thing that they set up, and, um I feel like you kind of forget about it towards the end, and then and then it has a really good payoff in like the second to last loop.
Oh yeah, I totally forget about it. Like I totally forgot about it. Like when I was rewatching it, I was like, why is she kind of baiting him? I'm like, oh, that's why. That's why, because she knows what's gonna happen. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's really smart. I just like the Home Alone traps, and like it shows that our protagonist has learned and is baiting the hunter and to be the hunted.
Hmm.
Um, the scene cracks me up because the bedroom is like comically large. Like 'cause obviously, like I know movies like you have to, obviously it's impossible to shoot in a real bedroom, or maybe I'm just a poor person. My room is not this big.
It is also a double.
It is, yeah. But it just cracks me up. I was like, this is a really big room because they have to fit the camera and the crew in there.
Mm.
But like, it's fine. It's a movie thing, but it just cracks me up. I'm just like looking at this, and then how big it is, and then I don't know. A bedroom, I think, is not as scary. Like I don't think the tension really works for me as well in the horror aspect of her. Like, there's no way they're in the bathroom. Like you've been locked in this room all day, so it's a silly thing. And then how did she come out of the closet? But it doesn't matter. Horror movies got to
Well,
break
and also no,
suspension.
she comes out of the bathroom, but
Oh, she does.
yeah, I mean, we're jumping as I'm kind of trying to go, moment by moment. We're still not, at least on my on my clip that I'm scrolling through. I'm not quite there yet, but I do like jumping back to where I am. I do like the fact that she's watching Teen Mom 2. And, although I can't figure out, I listened to it a couple times, and I'm not quite sure why, like, what triggers Tree to stop herself eating the cupcake, because she's, like, sitting in bed, and she unwraps it, and then she just stops, and, like, the audio on the clip is, the the teen mom mentioning that she's on her way to pick up Jace, which I haven't seen. I've never watched any of the Teen Moms, so I don't know if maybe there's something hidden in there about what's going on in the episode. But yeah, that's something that I don't know. But she just kind of stops eating the cupcake and then starts looking for the remote. And again, that's like that building block because we find out later that the babyface killer hiding in the bathroom is the one that has the remote.
Yeah, and then yeah, and then she says that freaking remote, and I listened to it a couple times. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. I wonder if it like if they reworked the language for the rating of the film, but like I don't know if I because I stopped and kept going back, and her mouth it's kind of tell if she says freaking or something else. I was trying to think like, did they retool some of this to make it PG-13 to get a wider audience there? Because I feel like a lot of
Yeah, it's
the
like they didn't want to waste their one F word in this moment.
yeah, I was wondering. I was like, huh, did they do that or not? But yeah, it's a good setup of like the remote because it kind of like lures and kind of distracts her, and then it pays off also in the sequel too with the killer also taking a photo, which is weird. Like, why is a different killer using the same motif? But it's fine. It's fine. It's a movie. Who cares? Just it's fine. It's a cool way to lure your victim to where you want to to get them to go.
Yeah, and then she has this moment where she opens the birthday card, and it's not signed, so we don't know who it is, but based on uh, the ominous message, I'm guessing that it's from Lori. And this is another bit where they kind of teased it early on because you do see the card in the first loop whenever she's getting her textbook.
And is this the first time she actually opens it?
Yeah, this is the first time that she opens it because the first time you can just kind of see it in the pile as she grabs her textbook and runs off, and then um, yeah, the text of the birthday card is "Happy birthday, another year older, and you've still got game." And then whenever she opens it, it's got the spinning baby face, and it says, "Unfortunately, that game is bingo. Have a lucky day." And then handwritten below that, it says, "Enjoy today, dot, 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 because there's no tomorrow."
Yeah, just the thing about the internal logic of the film, like if Laurie's gonna kill her with the cupcake or to stab her, what is this like the cupcake like the first setup, and if it doesn't work, her backup plan is to stab her? Is that what the plan is? You think? Oh, because that's where I got
Yeah,
kind of
I
muddled.
think it's her initial plan is to poison her with the cupcake, and then once that doesn't work, because still for Lori it resets every day, so Lori doesn't have any memory of the previous times. But once that fails, then she goes to work, does a double shift at the hospital, and then Toombs falls in her lap, and then that's where she gets the plan to use Toombs as a red herring or a scapegoat.
Okay, and then it's just coincidence that she gave her. So did she give her the card after the cupcake, or I'm just wondering. I'm trying to think now of like the
I
series
think
of
the card
events.
was there before, but
Okay.
the baby face is the school mascot. So
Yeah. Which like that's whose idea was it to make your college mascot the creepiest baby ever? But whatever, it's funny. It cracks me up when I see it.
Yeah, and one other background detail that I noticed in her room, which I think is kind of interesting because I've never heard of them before, but she has a couple posters. The biggest one is this big pink poster with this green like blobby cartoon character that says Garden of Elks and December 2015, which I'm guessing that's like a tour poster. But Garden of Elks is a three-piece thrash pop band from Glasgow, and I've never heard of them. I don't suppose you've ever heard of them?
No, I didn't even notice the poster. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and I didn't look into any of their music really. I did double check to see if maybe they were on the soundtrack, which I did not see them listed on the soundtrack. But their description on their website says they're Ryan, Niall, and Paul. GOE have been a band since the year 2013. Other bands they are in slash have been in include Pause, Bronto Skylift, and Dananana Ackroyd. In April 2015, Song by Toad Records released their debut album, A Distorted Sigh, and they will be getting in the van and playing all over Europe. Elks like to smash up their gear sometimes and set themselves on fire if the mood is right. At the moment, they are working on their second record and never refuse free toasted cheese. So I also get the impression that that was written in 2015 and hasn't been updated in 10 years.
Well, maybe they're somewhere in Glasgow now, lighting themselves on fire, still still touring. I don't know. So, well, then I was reading IMDb trivia because I don't know. I didn't like listen to a commentary track or anything for this, but like it said, like Tree Shirt says Dump Stap Hunk, which is like a funk band from like New Orleans where the film was recorded. So maybe the director or writer has like a soft spot for peculiar bands. I don't know. Maybe that's just like their niche thing. They got some interesting music tastes.
Yeah, I don't think she's worn that shirt yet because in this scene she's just wearing a plain t-shirt, which this I did know mentioned in the first loop that Tree has Jessica Roth has a lot of costume changes in this because she even in this loop she wakes up with the Carter's t-shirt that he gave her, and then she has the party outfit from the night before, and in the previous loop, she has her college sweatshirt that she goes to class, and then she has another outfit that she goes to see the doctor at the hospital with, and then she has her party outfit at nighttime. And then this one, she has her t-shirt, stay at home lounging outfit.
Hmm. Yeah, for a movie, it's a time loop movie. There's a lot of changes and stuff because usually like characters are stuck in their same clothes. So she's
Hmm.
going to be fashionable, no matter what. Whether she's dying or lounging and watching Teen Mom, she's got different outfits. And later, eventually, her loop, she wears her birthday suit. So she's got so many different things to wear.
Yeah. And then Um, and then we go into horror movie mode with, I'm guessing, let me ask you at this point, because the, the killer in each loop is sometimes it's Lori and sometimes it's Toombs.
Mhm.
And I think it's pretty clear, but, let me get your thoughts. Do you think that in this specific loop, it's Lori or Toombs behind the baby face mask?
It's gotta be Lori. That's the only way that she would know where Tree's at. It seems like a
Mhm.
personal killing, not just a random, teen killing. She's got the remote. She knows where she's gonna be at. She's watching her. So yeah, it's I guess that would make the most sense, right? Or do you
Yeah.
disagree?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Lori, and I believe, I think in the last loop at the party, it could go either way, but I think the first loop ends this loop especially. It's pretty clear that it's Lori in both of those cases, and it could have been Lori in the last one.
Yeah, it would make sense in the last one because like she knows where she's at and she's with the guy and there. Like Lori would know where to find her. But Lori's working her double shift, but that's her alibi. But I don't know. It's also weird too because I think you already mentioned it. It's like, well, if she's gonna eat the cupcake, then why does she want to kill her? But like, it's personal this time. She's got her locked up. Might as well enjoy the killing and go after her and make sure that Tree dies.
Yeah, and again, we get the again on like how well crafted this movie is. We get the first hint of John Toombs as a character, as
Hmm.
Tree. Whenever she turns the TV back on, she has to walk up to it to turn it back on, and then she changes the channel, and we get just a hint of the news report with the them saying John Toombs's name and mentioning a shootout that left one officer dead. And then right after they show his picture on screen, then Lori shuts the picture off with the remote again.
Yeah, I forgot about the tombs part, and from my first viewing, I remembered the twist that it's Laurie because I just remember the ending of this movie is unforgettable, which I won't spoil. That's for a different guest, but like I remember that so vividly, but I totally forgot about that kind of that red herring. So it's nice. It's like it's a good just classic kind of mystery of like who done it, adding enough red herrings to keep you guessing and going along for
Mhm.
and doesn't feel as long. The sequel feels a little drags on for me, but this one I feel like there's enough things to keep this going, keep you guessing, whether it's the horror, the thriller, the comedy. It's a lot of great things and this movie that has to offer. And like you said, from a writing perspective, it's excellently kind of tightly crafted, the setups and payoffs.
Yeah, and then we get like a good minute and a half of full on horror movie mode as she looks at the open bathroom door and she looks at the closet that's cracked open and then she grabs the hammer, goes to the closet, and then we get the fake out there's nothing in the closet, and then she heads over towards the bathroom, which I think it's framed really great because the way that the door is kind of blocking most of the mirror, so we're kind of we're behind Tree's shoulder, looking into the open door frame, and we have the mirror, which is mostly blocked off. It's got, and we see the reflection of Tree, like just in a crack, so that kind of gives us the cracked door, but it still also gives us the fully open door, and then we see the shower curtain, just the edge of it on the, left side of the door frame.
Yeah, it's a classic homage to, slasher films, and it's effective in that, like, it looks good. I It breaks my I'm not the biggest, like, I like horror. I'm not the biggest slasher kind of fan because it's like, really? You really think she's not in there? But it works so because, like, this movie is a comedy, so the horror doesn't work for me, but I think the comedy and, the surprising, like, drama later work. But yeah, I like it though. Like, anytime a movie can utilize mirrors appropriately and well to, like, make you think you're alone when you're not, it's always good there.
Yeah, and she gets right up to the shower curtain in the dark room, which again, I almost think this is one mistake that Tree makes because I think if she would have just turned on the light, she would have been able to see if anyone was in there instead of slowly kind of sneaking up to it. And I think it works because the shower curtain seems to be somewhat translucent, so I think that the remote control could still work through the shower curtain because Lori does manage to turn the TV on in the other room, and of course the timing is exactly whenever somebody is screaming on camera,
Mhm.
so he gets that like bit of a horror movie scream at the moment, and also a distraction for Lori to turn around. So, or I mean, for Tree to turn around and go back into the main part of the room, which gives Lori and the baby face mask the chance to sneak up behind her.
Yeah, Lori's a mastermind here. She's really planned out all these things and knows Tree so well to like know her movements, but it's fine and it works because the movie sets it up enough that you know all the pieces are there, so it doesn't. It seems implausible, but it's not impossible because Lori has she has all the weapons at her disposal to make this work, and it's fine. It works for me because this isn't like the final moment. This is just a really good like loop scene to remind us it's a horror film and to show us that like if you're really paying attention, like this babyface person like knows Tree. It's giving us so many hints that like this is someone who knows Tree really well and knows her how she's going to react and knows a lot about her. So it's personal. It's going to be random there.
Yeah, and um, and then we get just a brief fight, and Tree gets the one good hit with the hammer. Even though looking at it a bit more closely, you can see that it's not a very strong hit. Uh, just because of how quick it was. So I could see because I think a good whack with with an actual hammer that would put you out pretty easily.
That's like
Especially, like, to the temple, 'cause that's looks like she hits, the killer right in the temple, which that could have been pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a motif of all like slasher films. You've got to just be able to accept that like both your victim and your killer take a lot of beatings when they're trying to murder people. I always think of like the Scream movies when they're throwing like vases and lamps at people. They're falling downstairs and they just kind of pop back up like it's no big deal. But like that's just your stereotypes you got to have in your movie. You got to add the tension, whether it works for you or not. It just, you got to have it. Even though, like you said, a hammer to the head, you're at least going to see some cartoon birds for a second, but before you get up and precisely can kill your victim. But it's fine. It's fun. Slashers
Yeah.
have their place in this world, and they're fun.
Yeah, and then this is the first time that we actually, even though it's from the other side of the door, but this is the first time we actually see the full kill shot with the knife going, the bloody knife going through the door, and this is the first time in the movie that we see actually Tree's blood. We saw Nick's blood in on the knife in the last loop, but the first two, they cut right before the stab. So this one, we do get the moments after the stab, but we don't see any real gore, just this kind of the bloody knife. So it still stays on that PG-13 side of things. And I think that works in this movie because I don't think it would have helped the movie to see Tree gruesomely dying in each loop.
No, you don't. Especially you don't want your protagonist to be grisly murdered because like they're your or like grisly just injured in any way because like they're your emotional connection. You gotta like care about at least one of the people in your movie, your final girl, to like follow them around. But yeah, no. But I think the like you're saying the upping the ante though of the horror by showing the blood works like cinematically to the audience because and for Tree because Tree in the first two loops, she doesn't know she's in a time loop yet. But now
Mhm.
this is perfect because she's more aware. She dies. She's actually died. So then the stakes are being amped up for her and for the audience. We get a little blood, and then she realizes, oh, I'm dying over and over again. This is this is a nightmare literally and for the audience too.
Yeah, and also, something that we don't find out until later, but the the deaths are having a physical toll on her body as well. So there is this progression that amps up with each time, and then she becomes physically more distressed each time it happens. So that kind of adds to the movie and to her reactions as we go through.
Yeah, it adds the ticking clock element, right? Because
Hmm.
I think I haven't seen Groundhog Day in a long time. It's a phenomenal movie, but I'm trying to think of if there is I don't think there's any kind of like time like element that propels Bill Murray to push himself to like get out of this besides, his sanity. But like
Yeah.
this movie has to it's because otherwise, like I guess us the audience, we've got to feel like there's stakes here, and then trees like they call it like scarring. She's having scarring because of this. So it's a fun little tweak to most time loop movies, at least in my experience. Of like, well, what's the emotional or physical stakes for us as the audience, and it's good.
Yeah, and then that ends this loop. One thing that I have been asking people this season, or I've been meaning to, I forgot the first episode, but because this movie takes place on Tree's birthday, and as she reminisces about having this birthday tradition with her mother about them blowing out the candle together. I've been asking my guests, do you have any birthday traditions that you um, see every year?
Oh man, I'm gonna be a curmudgeon here, and I apologize because I'm a pretty cynical person, and this podcast seems very positive, but my birthday is on Valentine's Day, which I think
I
this movie came out on Valentine's Day or close to it. I might be misremembering this. Maybe I'm wrong.
don't.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I honestly don't remember. I know it came out on a Friday the 13th.
Okay. Moving on. But yeah, my birthday's on Valentine's Day, and I really hate my birthday because I got to share it with the entire world. Like, it can never go out on my actual birthday, and it's busy, and there's always that like weird dichotomy of I'm married, so I have to do the romantic thing on my birthday. But my wife's amazing, so we
Yeah, it's
don't
like you
do
have to
Valentine's.
share your birthday with your wife.
Yeah, and every time I have to like give my ID to someone, they go, "Oh my gosh, Valentine's baby!" I'm like, "Yes, yeah." Did your mom love it? Oh yeah, she loved it. I'm the perfect Valentine's gift. But my wife and I are untraditional of like we don't like we don't need to celebrate Valentine's Day. So like, but we always usually celebrate my birthday like earlier or later. So no, not really. Just I've always kind of hated my birthday. So that's me being the curmudgeon thing of it though. But like I don't know, like we always go out a week before. Like we don't buy each other gifts. We go places. So like last year she took me to a really like I'm not a foodie, but I like really fancy food. I like being treated because I
Mhm.
like to cook. So it's nice like to not cook. And then so like she takes me out to like a nice like restaurant. So that's like our tradition. Or so that's it. Like we don't like do gifts and things like that. But we like hey, let's go have a nice dinner and drinks because that's what we like to do together.
Yeah, that's nice. That's not too curmudgeonly.
No, I
Uh,
just hate my birthday. And then when I was a kid, because it's a February birthday, the weather, like I'm out in
mhm.
California, and California has like sun 11 months of the year, but in February it gets awful. Like it's like the one month where it's always raining, and it always rained on my birthday as a kid. So like it was always just lame. Like, and then it's like near like President's Day weekend, so everyone was always gone on a 3-day weekend. So I didn't have like birthday parties where people would come over. So I've always been very cynical about birthdays and stuff like that. But yeah, like it is what it is. But
Yeah.
my wife and I find a way to celebrate me and also celebrate everyone's love life.
Yeah, that's the way to go. But thank you so much for joining me. Do you have anything else that you wanted to mention about this loop or about the movie as a whole?
No, I enjoy you inviting me and picking this film. It's fun. I like this genre bending. I was thinking about other time loop movies that I liked that fall into this. I somewhat recently, a couple years ago, saw like Edge of Tomorrow. That's a really
Mhm.
cool like science fiction time loop movie. I'm not a big romantic comedy kind of guy, but I remember seeing Palm Springs time loop movie. I'm like, oh, that's a good one too. So this is a fun like subgenre film that makes you kind of like, and listening to your podcast makes you want to like look for some more, because it's a fun way to just bend traditional story narratives. The one thing that I'm gonna shame this movie is it inspired a lot of other horror genre bender films that I personally don't like. I think are kind of like cheap and lazy. I think the same director did Freaky. I know a lot of
Mhm.
horror people like it because it's like Freaky Friday is a horror movie. I didn't think it was. My problem is comedy. If it hits or miss, I'm a very specific sense of humor, and if the comedy doesn't hit, it kind of I kind of tune out. They also inspired like Totally Killer. It's an 80s
Mhm.
throwback where the person goes back in time, Back to the Future style, to like a different time period, and there's a killer. And then I think a year
There's
ago,
also another recent one that I think just came out this year that it was, like, basically the same as Totally Killer, except it was, like, the 2000s. Or I think it was just set in the 2000s, but it's another one along those lines.
yeah, I can't remember what it's called. I remember seeing a thing, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna avoid that one. And then It's a Wonderful Knife is really, really bad. It's a really bad horror movie. Like it's just so bad. Like doesn't nothing makes sense of the logic there. And then every decision the character makes is just weird. It's combining It's a Wonderful Life with the horror, obviously. And then this year, Hard Eyes came out, I think on
Mhm.
Valentine's Day, and that's a romantic comedy meets
I think that's
horror.
also the same director, Christopher Landon.
Yeah, and those like this, I feel like is a really tight script, and it really works. You pointed out and kind of praised the good sets up and payoff, and those movies seem very derivative and more of.
Well, this was, I should know this, but I haven't double checked, but it was actually co-written. Um, Scott Lobdell, he's a
Mhm.
comic book author. He did the story, and I believe that Christopher Landon, the director, maybe he did a pass. I think maybe he has co-writing credits with it, but it was an idea from Scott Lobdell, and he's the one that's he gets characters by credit in the second one, and the second one is just written by Christopher Landon.
Mhm. Yeah, and that the sequel, I kind of respect how silly it is. Like it's so bonkers, but then the last half kind of drags for me, and it's really melodramatic, surprisingly. But no, like you mentioned, Scott Lobdell, I think is credited with like X-Men, like comics, and writing. I think the Uncanny X-Men. If I'm wrong, I apologize, comic book nerds. But like he knows his time loops because the X-Men always, you know, go back in time and can do
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah,
The
you
Sons of
got Cable and Nathan Summers.
Yeah, so you have like he's got his pedigree is in time travel and trying to make that nonsense work in loops, but also understands the grounding of having a strong like emotional like character your character needs to go through. But yeah, that's it. Just like I really enjoyed rewatching these films and kind of getting back into the subgenre, and this movie's great. So like obviously you're listening to the podcast, check it out. It's really fun and it's well made.
All right, and why don't you take a moment and let people know about your podcast and where they can find you online?
Hi, I'm Ronnie. We're from Wasted Potential Podcast. Me and my friends Shane and Hobo Dan ramble about movies. I think this is our 6th year of doing podcasts, and we do it because we love it. We like to yell and argue with each other. We talk about movies. We have a lot of commentary track ones. We're more into now of doing kind of deeper dives on films we love. We just did one on uh, I'm blanking. We did it on Fight Club.
Fight Club.
Uh, Fight Club, yeah, a movie that we revisited that you've obviously, I think you're familiar with, possibly. Um, and
A
then
little bit.
our and then our favorite thing to do is just do deep dives on like series, and we're dumb. We just drink and we just kind of ramble on about movies and just argue with each other about what's a good movie or it's a bad movie, but we do a lot of deep dives onto series. We did Rocky a couple years ago with our friend Corey from Big Dumb Movie Podcast. One of my favorite ones, we did the Exorcist film franchises a few years ago. And then we're gearing up to do an Alien series, film series. I love, because the TV show's out now, but you can find us on Spotify, Wasted Potential Podcast. Our logo is like a white logo with a beer bottle, red Wasted Potential Podcast. Really cheap. We do it for the love of it. We don't have a lot of views and listeners, but we do it because we keeps us, me and my friends, together and gives us an excuse to yell at each other. But check us out. You can find us on Instagram, Podcast with Potential, at Gmail as well, and we're also on YouTube and whatnot. But thank you so much, Bubba. Appreciate the invite, and this was extremely fun to do a different format.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining me. And you can find me. I'm everywhere on social media where I'm at Bubbawheat these days. I'm most active on Threads if you want to keep up with me and what else I'm watching other than time loop movies. I'm still, as of recording, I'm almost finishing up Doctor Who as a carryover from my last season. Almost finished with it. And if you want to follow the podcast, we have a Facebook group. It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that to discuss episodes as they come out and also be aware of what is coming up for next season and just have any sort of discussions about anything time loop related is all welcome there. So until next time.
Where'd Lori put the freaking remote?